And scene.
All right, let me write that in. All right, end of episode. And beginning of Patreon Hi-Fi Hidden Track.
Woohoo! Hello!
All right, so what was the homework that we had this week? Or this
Sure.
few
So
weeks?
for the month of February, since Mom and Dad, Wayne and Pam, became our Patreon supporters at the $5 level, they got not only the shout-out, but they each got to ask us a question, and they each gave us some homework. And so Dad suggested that we watch Tron. Since he'd given it as a gift at Christmas, he was like, why don't you just go ahead and watch Tron for homework?
Yeah.
And so, okay. And then Mom was like, you should watch the John Wayne movie, Hatari. And so at this point, at recording, Anson has not watched Hatari. I've managed to watch both. And so in this Hi-Fi Hero hidden track for our Patreon listeners, we're only going to cover the Tron-related items, but hopefully at the next time we record, we will have a follow-up Hi-Fi Hero hidden track to cover the Hatari stuff.
Sorry, Mrs. C, I just didn't get to it.
It's quite all right. So let's see. So aside from watching the movie itself, Dad wanted to coordinate with a question as well, and my question was, within the Tron movie, discuss if you guys think that the Tron movie has better special effects, even though it was earlier in its efforts at special effects, or is the new Tron Legacy movie better? And he thinks that Anson would have some great input for this.
So I need to rewatch Tron Legacy because it's been a while.
As have I. I considered watching it, but then I was like, I've got too much to do. So
yeah. I think the effects themselves age pretty well. All the little computer graphics, the zooming around, the lights and stuff, and the video games, I think that was totally fine. I kind of liked the how their costumes had kind of like a faded, like techno look to them. You know, like the lights kind of come and go and stuff. I thought it was kind of a cool look.
right.
So I thought that was all. It all stuck. I think it all aged well because it was a movie about tech in the 80s, and they were using CG from the 80s. So it fits. It fits for me. I think it was cool. The one thing that I thought was a little strange was the two things. I guess some of the costumes were kind of strange and kind of out there.
Right. They kind of had like a Greco-Roman influence in some regards.
Yeah, like that gatekeeper guy has like a big head, and he's like stuck into this
Dumont.
little mound. Yeah.
Yeah, Dumont's like in a swivel chair, but he has like a whole apparatus that he's locked into.
Yeah. So a little strange. And then I thought the master control program looks kind of funny.
Yeah, he has a very warped face.
Like this big cylinder with like a nose and ears
And
like
eyes.
Yeah, it's a little strange. Hard to take it seriously, but I get what they were going for. This kind of big monolithic thing that's controlling and seeing everything.
Very, very ominous. Otherwise, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it definitely holds up over time. Better? I don't know if it was better. I think Tron Legacy has a very different vibe. They kind of have the faded green and like white and black kind of vibe going on.
Right. Yeah, Tron Legacy kind of looks like a Daft Punk music video, and I think Daft Punk even did music for the Tron Legacy movie.
Yes.
Whereas I think the costumes in the Tron movie, they look like they're all gray, like felt or something like that, and they kind of have like piping or something that like glows, like maybe they had like black lights or something to make those pop. Or they went back in afterwards and like brightened them up like lightsabers or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So with the question done, I have a list of things that I can talk about. You sent me your Tron notes, but I had to...
Yeah, I actually was trying to be like a good film critic, unlike how I do my other movies that I watch when I do lettered box stuff. This one I was just like, okay, I'm going to sit down and take notes. So that way when Anson and I go into homework, like I'm not just fishing for answers out of my butt. Like I actually know what I'm talking about.
I did not read your notes because I wanted to go in with a fresh mind.
Okay, sure.
So I'll go over my little. I have just a few points.
Okay.
So good things. I like the first time they power up the big laser. I thought that was a really cool sequence. How they have all the shots of the lights changing from status off to on and stuff. I thought it was a cool little sequence.
Yeah.
The disc battle I thought was very cool when they were slinging the discs around. The frisbees that are like flying around and stuff. That was kind of cool. Did you notice that they flew over a Mickey Mouse head in one spot?
And was it later in the movie when they're in the solar?
Yes.
So in the valley, there's a Mickey Mouse head?
Yeah, I'll have to find a screenshot or something, but I
Yeah,
could
we'll
be
put it-
imagining it. But let me write that down to make a note to make sure I find that. And while we're sitting here, this is the after show, so we have a little more leeway to allow for some typing and stuff.
Right,
Let me see
exactly.
if I can just find it. Tron, Mickey.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, there
and
it is.
obviously our Patreon subscribers will get access to this primo imagery. I don't know if Anson's trying to share it with me or not.
Yeah,
or
let me see if I
are
can
we
send
just...
you a link. Don't have production, blah, 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 blah. Let me see if I can do this. Can I drop this in here? No, that's not going to work.
I just went back into Skype and exited full screen mode so I could have the type field. So if you just typed it to me, I could. It's way easier.
Yeah, I'm waiting for. Okay, there it is. Let me see if I can do this. Yeah, that's just like a Google search that I did.
Okay, I'm looking at the image now.
Yeah, it was just a very quick thing. The camera was panning over, and they had this little Mickey Mouse like shape underneath where the ship was flying.
Oh, yeah, it looks like Mickey smiling.
It's like a side, like a profile view. So that was kind of cool. A little hidden Mickey thing.
Now I gotta wonder if there's a Mickey head in Tron Legacy.
Maybe, I don't know. I'll have to look next time.
Yeah, I know.
While we're talking about art and stuff, there's a really funny, or not funny, but there's a cool Legend of Korra / Tron Legacy crossover thing that this one guy did one time. So I'll send you a link to that too.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was kind of cool. So you can check that out.
Okay.
It's like them doing a little disc battle, but it's the Legend of Korra characters.
Oh, like they borrowed from the Bender sports arena battles.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see. Yeah, they're all the fire ferrets, and they're all Troned out in their Tron bodysuits. Okay, yeah, that's pretty intense.
Let's see what else. One more thing that I thought was kind of strange is two things that I thought were less good, and then some stuff I thought was really cool about the music. So two things that were less good.
Okay.
I was surprised that Tron was like another program in the thing. I guess I didn't know that, but I thought he was. I don't remember if they even talk about what Tron was in Tron Legacy, but I guess I was just surprised that it was like, the movie.
Yeah,
called...
Alan Bradley talks about, because I have more notes and thoughts on this, but if I need to help fill in the gap, like at the beginning of the movie, he's trying to in the NCOM building. Alan's working, and he's like, "Okay, I want to run Tron," but then it's like your Section 7 access has been revoked, and that's when he goes to Dillinger and is like, "I'm trying to get Tron, but I can't access Tron." And then he's like, "Oh, we've had break-ins, so the entire group's access has been shut off for now." And he's like, "Dang it, I can't run Tron because Tron's supposed to be a watchdog, not only for all of our, for the World Wide Web out there, but it's also a watchdog against the Master Control Program, because that darn Master Control Program is just sucking up so many resources of the company, and I don't understand."
So I thought the focus was a little strange because the movie's called Tron, and so it's like, okay, this is all about Tron, but it's about Tron for a little bit, and then it's about Jeff Bridges on his little quest to help Tron do his thing. So it was kind of like, I just thought the title didn't match my expectations, or the character being named Tron and not being like the main character was a little strange, but it's not a big deal.
Right. Well, and also Jeff Bridges plays two different characters. Well, I guess technically 3 different characters, because he starts off the movie as his program, Clue, which he sends into the system to try and find the evidence from his arcade, but it doesn't work. Clue gets captured by Sark and Master Control Program, and he gets de-rezzed. And then Kevin Flynn, Jeff Bridges in the flesh in the real world, is running his arcade, and he's like, I have to get this evidence because Dillinger stole my programs from me, and now that's why he's the senior executive at Encom, and that's why I got fired. So if I could get into Encom, since my old access has been revoked, then I can actually get in the system and get my evidence. And then when he's in there at the laser trying to hack in and give Master Control Program difficult logic problems to solve, Master Control Program powers up the laser and then beams Flynn into the machine, and then he becomes a digital avatar of himself. Well, I mean, it is himself, but it's a digital avatar. And the funny thing about that to me was that it's not until he actually goes to sleep in the computer world that he finally realizes, oh, I'm actually Kevin Flynn, but I'm inside of a computer. Because first he thinks, oh, I'm a program, or I don't know who I am or what I'm doing here. And then it's not until he goes to sleep and then he wakes up, and then he's just like, I said in my notes that he basically becomes Proto-Neo, because he's like, oh, I'm a human inside of a computer world, and I know how computers work. So I can do this stuff where I can raise the recognizer, the rect recognizer ship that we're sleeping in, and I can power it up and make it go, basically.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. He's like a Neo, like a Proto-Neo.
Right.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the soundtrack was pretty cool. I was trying to I would definitely wanted to pick your brain if you thought it was more. Was it more modular synthesis, or do you think it was more like Moog keyboards and stuff that kind of evoked that mood?
Yeah, I was reading about it on Wikipedia, and they were saying that they used a synthesizer, and they tried to hire the London Symphony to fill in some parts, but because the director didn't think the music would be done in time, but then the composer wanted the synthesizer stuff instead, so they redid the soundtrack afterwards, and I liked it.
Yeah, when I play, I think in Kingdom Hearts 2, you actually go to the Tron world, and so it was nice to hear that soundtrack music again, because obviously I remembered it when I saw the movie, but even when you play games like Kingdom Hearts 2, you get to hear the Tron soundtrack elsewhere. So.
There was one part that I thought was very interesting, where the music, I like the music a lot, and it reminds me of this one ballet by Stravinsky called Petrushka. It's the story of it's the story of a doll, a puppet doll that comes to life and does some stuff.
Okay.
Anyway, I wanted to play some clips for you because I thought this was kind of cool. And
public domain music.
Well, Tron is probably not public domain, but
no, but I mean Petrushka is.
Yes. So here is first we're going to do some Tron. Oh, make sure it's gonna. Oh, come on. Gotta wait for it to download or talk to the network, I guess. Really? Come on. Let me try again.
Yeah. I mean, I'll for sure say Tron doesn't have that Evangelis sound that is present in Blade Runner, but it does have this very ethereal quality that makes you think oh, I'm in a new world.
Okay. I'll tell you what part is interesting to me. This is a track called The Light Sailor. Let me skip ahead a little bit here.
And to make sure we don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
We'll just skip around.
Here we go. Alright, listen to these arpeggios. Alright, you hear that little part?
Yep.
So
Yeah, I
that's one
think
part.
that comes back multiple times in the movie.
Ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da. All right, now here's Petrushka.
Okay.
Not yet. Hold on. Doesn't that sound very similar to that part?
Yeah,
Kind
I could hear it a little bit. Yeah, like obviously, it's all public domain, so I suppose composers of our modern times are free to borrow from them. Um, so yeah, I can kind of hear it. Like,
I'm not sure. I'm actually sure if Stravinsky is public domain because he was Russian.
and Russians don't believe in public domain.
There is some stuff that's like not public domain because it was.
It was owned by the Soviets.
Yeah, like if I do IMSLP, the International Music Score Library Project for Stravinsky.
Right.
I'm just curious.
Oh yeah,
to
no,
see.
that website is definitely your friend, choir or orchestral alike. You can get access to public domain music.
Here's what it says about Stravinsky. All original works, compositions, and arrangement of this person are still under copyright in Canada, the European Union, Japan, and elsewhere, and are thus subject to immediate deletion. These works are probably also still under copyright in the U.S. if it was first published after 1923. So,
Well, thankfully, we only barely used a bit of it, so we're not trying to play the whole thing.
yeah, the complete score is public domain in the U.S., it looks like.
Okay, good.
But anyway, yeah, it's interesting. So that's what other notes did I have? Yeah, so Tron, that's the original Tron soundtrack. There is a Tron Legacy has a great soundtrack that I love very much. I've also really gotten into, they have a Tron Legacy reconfigured, which is like remixes of it, which is also very good.
Okay.
There's a Tron Legacy Collector's Digital Edition, which I didn't know about until this week when I started listening to all the music, and that's also very good. And then there's this Tron Uprising, which is a TV show that came out after Tron Legacy, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Never watched that, but it seemed kind of cool. It's an animated TV show.
Oh, okay, right.
It's like it says it takes place between Tron and Tron Legacy. So
Okay, to help fill in some of the gaps.
maybe if I have some time, I'll go back and watch the TV show too because it's a fun universe and I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed this homework. So thanks, Mr. C, for the movie and for assigning it to me and us to watch. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think maybe because I like I said I sent you my whole notes.
Yeah, what do
I
you
know
got? What do you want to highlight?
So let's see. Well, I did a breakdown of all the characters at the top, just like basic notes. But I thought, let's see. I'll try and go through stuff, fairly quickly and not eat up all our time. But I thought the two interesting set pieces in the movie, basically. There's only three real places in the entire movie. There's NCOM, there's Flynn's Arcade, and then there's the computer world.
Okay, yeah.
So I thought that was interesting and how each area evoked different feelings and had different color palettes and and basically encapsulated the 80s in their own way because NCOM is very much has that 80s style architecture. And then Flynn's Arcade, obviously arcades were super popular in the 80s, and so it's like, the 1980s, I'm here, I can smell it. And then, of course, the computer world, one imagining of kind of what computers are like. That was also really interesting to be there. I thought it was an interesting concept in this movie, and a lot of movies in the 80s and the 90s in which computers and or hacking are considered like magic. I think maybe even hacking to an extent nowadays in modern movies is kind of maybe troped this way. But really in this movie, you can see how much of it, even though it might categorically be more science fiction, I think it might actually be fantasy as well.
Okay,
Because
I
of
can
this-
see how those lines get blurred a little bit.
Yeah. Let's see.
Like when he reanimates the machine, he's not like, you don't see him like planning out what he's gonna do or like typing commands. He just kind of like puts his hand over it and it just kind of.
Yeah,
So,
turns on, exactly. Let's see, you have a super smart AI present and master control. It's basically a rise of Skynet, basically, before Terminator, so I don't know if James Cameron got his idea from this.
yeah.
But it was interesting how in the movie, Master Control wants to access the Kremlin and the Pentagon because he's bored with breaking into corporations, and he's blackmailing Dillinger to be like, well, I know that you stole the programs to get your position, so you're going to let me do this. And, you know, Dillinger's basically at the mercy of this AI to do what it wants to keep growing, which I thought was kind of scary.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Walter Gibbs is the old man who also plays Dumont, but he works in the laser room with Laura. And there's a point early in the movie where Dumont comes up to talk with Dillinger in his office. And he's like, hey, you know, you're restricting access. It's really putting a hamper on Alan and Tron's program. And, you know, it's affecting us in the laser room. And Dillinger and Gibbs, Dr. Gibbs, kind of get into this interesting philosophical debate in which, you know, Dumont is very, I keep saying Dumont, but it's Dr. Gibbs in the real world. Dr. Gibbs kind of has this idea of like, no, computers are for user requests and it's about learning and engaging in this stuff. And then Dillinger's all like, no, computers are all for doing business and making money. And it was, you know, so that was kind of an interesting philosophical opposition between the two. And considering that Dr. Gibbs actually, he says he started NCOM in his garage, and now he works on the laser, and he's not like the guy in charge. So it's kind of like a la, you know, these, you know, Bill Gates and these Steve Wozniaks and Steve Jobs who are like, oh, let's just start this computer company in our garage in the 80s. And now all of a sudden we're this like multi-billion-dollar computer company. And the fact that NCOM apparently makes computer games and laser machines that'll digitally convert organic matter is kind of, again, baffling with this weird concept of computers are magic, basically. And, you know, this whole Dr. Gibbs poses an interesting argument with, you know, basically the relationship between man and machine. And I think he delivers a line that's like, you know, oh, you know, the way if we accepted your worldview, soon it'll be, you know, it'll be the machines that'll be the ones doing all the user requests and doing inputs. And then the humans are just going to be the slaves, basically, or something like that. And so because of Dr. Gibbs raising this point about the relationship between man and machine and how the soul of the programmer is reflected in the program itself, kind of helps to explain why the actors are double cast as the programs.
Oh, yeah.
And then even going so far, if you picked up on this, there's this religious belief system with the programs, and that users are considered a religious system of belief for programs. And Sark, who's kind of who's, you know, Ed Dillinger recast and is a minion of the MCP program, says that belief in users are heretical, and the MCP program himself denies he was made by one user. He denies that he was created by Dillinger, that he is made up of many other users and programs, and he's worth more than all of mankind. And Dumont even makes a comment later that, oh, he was just a chess program before he got this inflated sense of ego and maniacal, egomania, whatever the word is, you know, larger than life. And to kind of also raise this point of religiosity among the programs when Tron is pleading with Dumont, please let me, I'm in the input-output tower temple, as it were. Can I please make a request? Can I go talk to Alan? And there's a line that Dumont says that I had to write down because it immediately brought to mind the creed, the creed that I say at Mass every week. Dumont says, all that is visible must grow beyond itself and extend into the realm of the invisible. And then he allows Tron to go past to make his, like, plead up to the sky with Alan. And then Alan, like, through a computer voice, talks down to Tron. And, like, you see, he holds up his disc goes up, gets the program thing that it needs to defeat Master control program, and then it descends down, and he picks it, and Tron's like, I've talked to the gods, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. I remember they briefly said, "Oh, it's a religion to believe in users," but like the whole thing with like the input-output thing being a temple and stuff. It's interesting. Like
kind of even the costume choice. The costume choice of Dumont, since you talked about how he was wearing a ridiculous headpiece, does that kind of not remind you of like a temple priest or something like that?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
I was going to actually try and find the words of the creed, because I was even trying to find it myself.
Of all that is seen and unseen.
Yeah, well, I think I think now at Mass with the translation of trying to get it directly from Latin, I think it's I believe in all that is visible and invisible, and that's where I picked up on it, because I was like, oh, it sounds kind of like. It reminds me of like the Nicene Creed or So I was just like, oh, that was kind of super interesting that popped up. Let's see. Matter transformer organic digital converter at NCOM. Why? Well, I don't know. That was interesting.
You know what that really reminds me of is the laser gun from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Yes,
it does very much. Let's see. Brilliant colors of the 80s, stunning CG effects for the time. And then I guess the last couple things. There were two shots in the movie that I thought were pretty interesting. Definitely an emotional one was when Flynn first has to battle Crom, the compound interest program in that game of High Lie, where he has like the cup thing on his hand and he throws the ball at the ceiling and it bounces, and it gets rid of the rings as time goes on. So there's a shot where like Crom is like dangling onto the edge trying to survive, and Flynn's like, no, I'm not going to kill him, because Sark's like, finish him off. Yeah. And then there's a shot of Sark's eyes. It does like a close-up of his eyes, and then it shows the button, and he's about to slam that button to kill them both. But like MCP intervenes and is like, no, he will go, he'll, don't kill him. He'll go to the other games or something like that. And I thought that was a really interesting shot that like, whoa, you felt like, whoa, Sark is like, he's merciless, just like Ed Dillinger. And then at the end of the movie, when Tron is battling Sark, he gets the disc and he throws it, and he does the killing blow on Sark, which like splits the front of his head open because it breaks his disc, and then like basically like would split open his head and he falls down dead. But then MCP program, Master Control Program, does like the classic D&D thing where he's like, rise, my minion, and become undead now. And not only does he make Sark undead, but he makes him like a giant. So then Tron has to like fight him off and then still throw the disc in to destroy Master Control Program. And then the only problems that I think I had in the movie was kind of like the love triangle that existed.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that too. I mean, she can kiss whoever she wants to, but she kisses both the leads in like 2 minutes.
Right. So at the beginning of the movie, it sets up that Kevin Flynn used to date Laura. Laura works on the laser at NCOM, but Laura and Kevin used to date, but then they broke up, and now Laura is dating Alan Bradley, the guy who made the Tron program, who still works at the company. And when they go to his arcade to explain the situation, there's kind of like this tension and stuff like that, but he seems to still acknowledge like, hey, I know we're broke up, and I'm going to let you be you, and you can be with Alan or whatever. But when Flynn is inside the computer world, he kisses Yori as they're piloting Sark's command ship to Master Control Program, so that way he can go in and use his Proto-Neo powers to try and help Tron destroy Master Control Program. Because like when he wakes up, he's like, "Oh, Yori, you look like Laura from the outside world, and I'm attracted to you." And then Yori's like also attracted to Tron. But yeah, he does the thing where he like kisses her before he jumps off the ship or whatever, which I was like, was that because he still has feelings for Laura and that's the only way he can express it, or was it unnecessary? And then once Flynn gets beamed out of the computer world, Tron and Yori have a kiss, and then they're like, all right, the world is safe, and users are communicating with their programs, and all's right in the world again. And so it's kind of like a weird, interesting way for the love triangle. But at the end of the movie, Flynn comes out of a helicopter as Alan and Laura are waiting for him on the roof, and they're like, oh, let's hop in the helicopter and go get lunch. Ha ha ha. And then the movie just
what's
ends.
up, programs? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he says. Right, which is what you opened our regular show with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which makes me wonder, does that mean that Flynn explained everything to Alan and Laura of what happened to him? Is that even mentioned in Tron Legacy?
I guess they wouldn't even know. Yeah, they wouldn't know unless he told them what happened, because they weren't inside the computer. It was just him.
Right. It was only Kevin Flynn that was in the computer, and he was only in there long enough, because I think it was they went in at some point in the night, and then it's like dawn when Dillinger comes back to the office or whatever, and he goes to try and access Master Control Program, but it's like a dumb program again, and he's like, and then he realizes that Kevin Flynn got the evidence that he needed, and he's like, oh no, I'm finished, basically.
Yeah,
So he was only in there long enough, 6 hours or whatever, to do what he needed to do. But yeah, it makes me wonder, because, the actor who played Tron, reprised his role in Tron Legacy, but I remember that Clue is the villain, but it must be that Kevin Flynn recreated Clue, but then didn't Clue get corrupted? And then Clue killed Tron or something like that in the Legacy movie?
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. It's like Clue, either he wasn't derezed all the way, or he got sent to jail, and he was still alive and mad that Flynn didn't rescue him or something. He was like, oh, you left me, you forgot about me or something. I can't remember. I have to watch it again.
Yeah, I know. Now we're going to have to add Tron Legacy to the homework.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
But there you go. So I think we covered all of our Walkman Warrior and Hi-Fi Hero hidden track homework.
Yeah, you had a couple really quick notes about the light bike scenes. I remember they had those little sticks they used to summon the light bikes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's in Tron Legacy, too. I vaguely remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And then how the water is power. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. They come to the canyon and they're they're slurping and they're like, oh, it's so good. And I was like, oh, okay. So I guess electricity or energy is represented as water in this world.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, I guess it's kind of universal. Water is, necessary for organic life. And I guess in the virtual world, energy is vital to life as well. And it would be represented by water as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, homework complete.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I was just as anxious to talk this week, and I'm glad that we were able to start doing this, and hopefully this will encourage more people to become Patreon subscribers.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll watch the numbers.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll have the fun experiment of, I guess we have to make this episode private, and then we upload it to Patreon only, and only the Patreon subscribers can access the link to the private podcast episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know I've played with it on Patreon, and I know you can make posts only visible to certain tiers and stuff like that. So
yeah.
That'll take care of that part, but I think on the tech part of, as far as hosting with Fireside, you'll have to make it private or hidden or something?
Yeah, we'll play with that. Yeah, I forgot we can do that. Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. And so now, I think this is the part where it ends for the bonus, but then we still need to record the intro for the main episode.
All right, so bye, Mr. and Mrs. Z. Thanks again.
All right, thanks, Mom and Dad. I love you.
Hi, Mom.